All right, welcome back to Market Day Report. I'm Scott Shelley, otherwise known as the Cow Guy. Thank you for just tuning in if that's what you're doing, and thanks for being with us all day. We've had a lot to talk about. In about 13 minutes actually, we're going to open up the Cow Guy Close, where we'll close these markets for you, but we're also going to go into a deeper dive on some of the other things. So that's the Cow Guy Close, 1 Central, 2 Eastern, half an hour. It's worth a watch. We're going to kind of wrap up the day for you and give you an idea where these markets close going home. All right, let's talk about these markets. How about corn? Let's move right in and see where that corn is coming into the close. Up 9.5 cents in that March contract, 635.5. May and 9 3/4 cents higher at 634.25. So still strong today. So that's some good going. We'll see about this one though. This is the one that's been on fire. 32.5 cents higher in that March bean contract. 15.23 is last. May is up 32 3/4 cents at 15.28 even. I'll save it for the analyst to say why that's happening, but there's a lot going on out there. How about wheat in Chicago? That's up 6.5 cents in March. 7.67 3/4 is last, and that's middle of the day's range. Bay is up 5 3/4 cents at 7.72 last. All right, let's move over to see what Kansas City's got for us. The hard red wheat in Kansas City, up 3 cents pretty much across the board. 3 cents higher in March, 7.84 1/4. 3 cents higher in May, 7.87 1/4. All right, so we're kind of in the middle of the day's trading range over there. But what I want everybody to see is we've got some pretty darn big trading ranges today. Even though we're not too far from home when it comes to price, there has been some movement. Spring wheat, how about this? 8 cents higher in March, 9.14 is last. Again, in the middle of the range, but a decent range of 17 cents. May, 7 1/4 cents higher, 9.10 is last. All right, let's look at this one. This one's probably got the biggest range of the day so far. How about cotton down $1.63 or 163 points to 125.94, but we had almost a 5 cent range in cotton. That's a pretty good going for cotton. All right, let's bring in our next guest analyst. That would be Ted Seifried from Zaner Ag Hedge in Chicago. Good afternoon, Ted. Well, see if you can get through this without saying the word soybeans. Impossible. All right, what do you think? What's top of mind?
Soybeans, right? Any day you have soybeans up almost 50 cents, it's going to turn some heads. Again, soybeans continue to be the leader to the upside. This has been the case since December 1st. And, we look at South American weather, it's concerning. It continues to be concerning, especially in southern Brazil. And, you see some estimates come out. A private estimate of 126.5 million metric tons for the Brazilian soybean crop, down from the USDA was originally at 144. Some people were talking 148. So, you cut 20 million metric tons off the Brazilian crop, and we're going to get a little bit concerned. It's pretty easy to do the math, Scott. If we get an extra 5 million metric tons of export business in this marketing year, we have a negative balance sheet in soybeans. So the soybean market is trying to price ration soybeans at the moment for fear of more exports. And we're finding that price rationing is not an easy thing to do because we are in this sort of inflationary climate where we're able to absorb higher prices and still pay them. Crush margins are still really fantastic. We are not going to give up any of the domestic demand for soybeans. So it's really all about exports. Problem is we're not really seeing, the problem in my mind is that we're not really seeing this huge increase in exports quite yet. In fact, a lot of the purchases that are being made by China right now are for next year. I think this ultimately ends up being a next year problem for soybeans rather than a this year problem for soybeans. But I really think it's a this year problem for corn. I think corn is the sleeping giant in the room. It's been held down by wheat. The wheat isn't as bullish of a story as what we had a couple months ago. But ultimately, when all is said and done, the losses in South America in the corn and potentially that second season safrinha corn crop, I think the corn story is going to be the one that carries us into spring and into planting and into early summer.
It's hard to disagree with that, and it's hard to be it's hard to be buying anything, even if it's acres in this environment. Everything's going up. All right, we're going to go away, pay some bills. We'll be right back to talk with Ted Seifried about the livestock after these messages. Thanks for tuning in. This Market Day Report. I'm Scott Shelley, and every now and again I use that as the cow guy, a cheap segue into these cattle markets. I'm going to do it again here as we go home. How about live cattle? What do we got going on there? Live cattle has been better all day today. Not a ton. We've kind of backed off, actually. February's up 65 cents, 140.22. April's up 65 cents at 145.17. All right, how about feeder cattle? What's going on there? Now we've got a higher corn board. I know Ted wants to talk about that. March is going to be up 52 cents at 163.55. April's up 55 cents at 169. 00. So we're kind of up the upper end of those ranges. Not bad, but that's pretty good going considering. All right. How about lean hogs? That's the last one before we hand it back over to Ted. Feb's down actually 7 cents at 88.40, but we do have April up $2.05, 97.75, and May up $2.17 at 101.85. All right, let's bring back in Ted Seifried from Zaner Ag Hedge in Chicago. Ted, what tickles your fancy, as they say, with those livestock prices?
I'll go along with what the cow guy was saying about the cows, and that is, it's great to see feeders higher on a day where corn is decently higher. We're not going to say corn's limit up, but hey, almost 10 cents higher in corn, and the feeders are plus on the day, not far off their highs going into the close. That's a pretty good feeling. Cattle. I think there's more upside potential in cattle. We have a bullish situation in cattle as a whole. I think packers' margins are such that they will be able to, but I think ultimately be forced to pay higher cash prices. So I think cattle can go higher. I'm talking that 150 cattle mark, maybe even better. We'll see. Hogs, forget about the Fed. The front month of hogs has been a problem for months now, even going back to say October. But look at that April. That April's traversed 84 to 99.15 over the course of the last 3 weeks, basically. We're finally getting into some fair value here, what I think, for the hogs. But it gets a little pricey when you go even further out in time with the August trading over 105, almost 106. So here's where you kind of start to wonder about, hey, have we really come too far too quickly in the hogs? Now that we're back to prices that I think we should have been at the first place. But the hog market looks good. Domestic demand looks good. We don't have as many animals out there. My hog guys are having a hard time replacing the hogs that they're taking to market. So this is going to be an issue for some time. I think hog prices are going to stay really, really rather elevated for quite some time.
Yeah, and again, we've seen more buying. This is, there's times when you trade this stuff and you can just tell that people want to own something, right? And a lot of times it's indiscriminate, and maybe today there's a little bit of that in there. Obviously, we've got some South America issues, but it's good to see that buying across the board and all these things. It's a nice day to be in this chair when you've got prices like that out there. I really appreciate your content, Ted. That's Ted Zaner and Ted Seifried from Zaner Ag Hedge. Boy, oh boy, he's not going to like that, is he? All right, really appreciate you being on today, Ted. We're going to bring it back to Nashville, and I'll throw it over to Suzanne.